Hey, this is Neil Bawa, the mad scientist of multifamily, and you're listening to the Mailbox Money Show with Bronson Hill.
All right, so I am so excited for this interview of the Mailbox Money Show. I've got Justin Donald, and he is amazing. If you haven't seen his book, The Lifestyle Investor, I've got it right here. He's got a new version of the book out, and he has the 10 Commandments of Passive Investing. And really, he talks about this idea. I think it's the most interesting idea in this book. It's the idea of invisible deals, and it's getting access to deals that no one else gets access to. You never want to be the person at the table with 30 other offers, right? Unless you're the seller, right? You don't want to be the buyer who's competing with 30 people. You want to find the one that somebody wasn't even going to do a deal, or they're doing a deal with you for some other reason outside of something that was predicted. So I'm really excited for this interview. I think you're going to love it. We talked about some amazing stuff, tons of value here. So hopefully you'll find as much value as you can and be able to share this with others. Let's jump in. Welcome to the Mailbox Money Show. I'm super excited to be here with my good friend Justin Donald, the lifestyle investor. He's been called the Warren Buffett of our day, the up and coming and already there. I mean, the things he's doing are phenomenal. So I know you're going to love this interview. Justin, how's it going today?
Hey, it's going great. I'm always happy to be here. Excited to see you, Bronson. Excited to see all the cool stuff you're up to, and talking offline here about your new book. I'm thrilled about that too. So I'm sure your audience is ecstatic. Hopefully, I didn't spoil no spoiler alert or whatever.
No,
I'm sure they know it's coming, but I'm excited for you.
Thanks, man. Yeah, Rich Brain, really excited to share just some of the wealth habits and things wealthy people do. And I think that's one thing you have really done a great job with. Just watching you, your growth, your brand, the things you've done. You've just really set yourself as the guy who's really, finding off-market deals and finding ways to create value. And even as an investor group coming in and getting better terms and renegotiating things. In your book, The Lifestyle Investor, amazing book, read it a couple times. And you have a new version out that has 25% more. It's the black cover one now. So it's like the Black Knight, right? There's the White Knight, the Black anyway. But yeah, give us a little update on kind of on your book and especially the updates and kind of what's new there.
Yeah, so I mean, tons of additional content. I get into some of my AI investments because I've been investing in AI for like a decade. So I know it's like the new buzz phrase now and catchword, but that and robotics and all these things that are so popular now. I really, I talk a lot about invisible deals and seeing trends and all that. So I've been kind of a student of this space for a while. So I talk about that. I talk about hacking VC, like how do you get venture capital investments that are shorter term, de-risked, but still great returns. We talk about, I actually am able to get into the Ponzi scheme story because I actually took the stand because I had incriminating evidence. And so I was a first day witness. And I wasn't able to talk about any of this before. When I wrote the book, I had to be very vague because, I was working with federal agents and federal prosecutors and was not allowed to talk about it. So I got to, kind of open up and share some of that story and what it was like being on the stand and just like the type of information that I keep that is very handy to it's like the due diligence that I do. Like I want all the information. So if anything ever goes bad, I've got the stuff, right?
Mm.
And then just, we get into some estate planning, we get into more due diligence. I mean, one of the things I'm really focused on right now is not just doing investments. And we do a ton of investments in our community, but it's teaching people how to invest, teaching them how to think, teaching them to come up with their investment criteria first, teaching them to come up with goals and getting in alignment with what they really want and making sure their investments follow that and doing those things before they actually invest. And so we get into a lot of those topics in the new book. And, we've built some courses around vetting deals and a master class. And so we're excited about that. But I do want to say all the proceeds of the book still go 100% to fighting human trafficking. And this is still the biggest challenge, the biggest thing that I want to make a stand for. And so I'm just proud that the book has, the Lifestyle Investor book now, besides being a #1 Wall Street Journal bestseller and USA Today bestseller, as of last year, January, it became a top 1% of all books ever sold, which is really humbling. But what excites me the most is now the book has produced hundreds of thousands of dollars that have gone to these humanitarian efforts.
Wow.
And we're excited to eclipse 7 figures soon.
That's amazing. I think we're aligned on a lot of it, a lot of things you shared there. Of the biggest one is the human trafficking. I mean, I was like, that's, I started hearing some of these stories. I actually heard the story of this girl who was rescued in Greece, and she once she realized, because she was just so traumatized, once she realized she was being rescued, she just with tears in her eyes, said, "Well, why didn't you come sooner?" And it was just this heartbreaking story of her being brought to Europe for a job, and then it's shocking that 20 to 40 million human slaves are out there, and 99% never become free. So it's something that I in that moment really said, this is worth living and dying for. This is my why. And so I love what you're doing in that cause. I know you're partnered with Tim Tebow and his organization as well, which is great. So you shared a lot of stuff there. I love you're committed to helping investors, and I agree with that. But I think that the number one thing that people need before they invest. And I'll come across people that inherit money, they sell a business, they have an exit, and they have 5 or 10 million, whatever. And I always tell them, invest slowly, but learn a lot. Like really make sure you get your education in place. And so we're going to get into that. I know we could spend a lot of time going to a lot of different topics, but the thing that I think most interested me from your book, and I think for a lot of investors as well, is that you have this concept they call it the 10 commandments of cash flow investing for passive income and financial freedom. But one of them is finding invisible deals. And I want you to explain what an invisible deal is, and also just kind of talk about, if they're invisible, how do you find these? How do you see these things that are invisible?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Bronson. And invisible deals, like that's how I've built my career. Like that's how I have been able to build the wealth that I've been able to build, and why it's happened quickly versus over a longer period of time. It's because I'm finding deals that are off market. I'm finding deals or creating deals with people that maybe they didn't even intend to sell, but I was able to structure a win-win scenario for them. And it was an idea that I had where they wouldn't have sold to anyone else, but maybe the story or the reason or the partnership was very compelling, and they wanted to do something. When a deal is off market or a deal is not listed, you eliminate the competition and the maximizing of price. As a seller, you want to get as many people in the pipeline to buy as humanly possible, right? Because that's going to drive the price up, and it's going to create a frenzy. And
We saw this in multifamily a couple of years ago. It was like 30 offers at the table, and it was
That's right.
What's your best and final? And then it's just how much can you
right.
squeeze them possibly? But you don't want to be the only guy at the table, and you're talking about
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how are you going to maximize if you're paying prices like that? It's going to be a lot harder to get a great return. And you run into the danger zone where maybe the numbers work based on a perfect scenario, but we all know we've been in an environment, an economy where a lot has changed. And so a lot of people are underwater or will soon be underwater because they didn't underwrite something that's really stress tested, a true bear case scenario. So I just want to, I want to avoid deals that don't give enough margin, that if things don't go to plan, you're not dead in the water. So, invisible deals to me is everything. Like, off market, no competition, but also what about, like, I look at it from the standpoint of trends. What is a trend today that's not mainstream, but could be mainstream sometime in the future? And can you be an early adopter of that trend, or an early investor of that trend? And, if you really think about it, we are embarking right now, as we speak today, in the greatest wealth transfer in the history of the world. Experts place the wealth transfer that's going to happen from baby boomers to millennials from now until, basically over the next 20 years. And a lot of this is going to happen over the next 10 years, as anywhere from an $80 trillion to a $100 trillion wealth transfer. There is no other nation in the world that has like a cumulative wealth of that, right? China's second to the United States at 80 or at like 75, 76 trillion, something like that, right? So like we're talking about a whole like biggest, wealthiest, top performing GDP country. Like that's the wealth transfer. So if you want to figure out a great way to be ahead of trends, well, what do millennials do right now? Like, how do they shop? How do they spend their time? What do they do for recreation? What do they do for work? Where do they live? Where do they travel? How do they travel? I mean, there's so many things that if we know that this is where money is going to be, then it makes it a lot easier to pick some good educated guesses that, truly are trends today or trending today, but are actually mainstream tomorrow.
Well, and this is like Warren Buffett talks about this too, and a lot of great investors, it's Wall Street is concerned about the next 3 months, right? Everybody's like maybe 3 to 6 months, at the most. But if you can have a 3 to 5 year, like, hey, where we're going to be, and if a deal makes sense and you're positioned ahead of a trend, it's like the senior of the aging trend, or we just did a senior housing development in Arkansas. Like there's things like that. If you can get ahead of any sort of trend, it's an additional thing that it allows you potentially just things to go really exponential, which is huge. So that's a parameter you look for. And then so that's, I guess, how you'd identify a sector. How are you, in real estate, we would say, hey, we're a buyer in this market. We have a partner that owns a bunch in Dallas or in Charlotte or whatever. And then there are deals coming. In the beginning, you're trying to hit up a million brokers. After you start buying stuff, they're all hitting you up, right? Because you're an insider. So, about 80% of large multifamily deals go off market. So how are you, and I know in your book, you give some examples of this, but can you share any other examples of just how someone who's a regular, or is it even something that a retail investor can do? Or is it more something that somebody who's got a fund, is this kind of for big players, or is this somebody, for individuals, how they can kind of find these invisible deals?
Well, I think it probably depends on the investment sector you're in, like the real estate sector. I mean, I think that it's going to be way harder to find a deal in a real estate asset class that is predominantly institutionally owned than one that is predominantly baby boomer owned, right? So I think that is a factor. But at the same time, you do enough hard work, you put out enough feelers, you can find anything in any real estate asset class. But the key is, I mean, sure, sometimes brokers will have pocket listings. There's still going to be a competitive process for that unless you've got a killer relationship with them and you somehow work something out without them taking it to market. But even these pocket listings, it's like they're still going to their insiders and they're trying to figure out where they can get the best price because they're going to be paid a premium based on, they're going to be paid more for someone that closes that pays more, right? So to me, I would rather just go right to the source, which you can do by, cold calling. You can do that by direct mail. There's other ways you can do it, but those are kind of the primary. And then I also think it's important to pay attention to, from a concentration standpoint. It's like, well, multifamily is one of the most, institutionally owned real estate asset classes. Mobile home parks are the least institutionally owned real estate asset classes. Industrial falls in the middle of it. And probably more on the less institutionally owned. And by the way, those are also the two top performing real estate asset classes the last 6+ years.
Right.
And so I just, I still like those. I mean, I think about, years ago, I got into mobile home parks 15+ years ago. And my friends said I was crazy. They thought this was stupid. They told me, it's a waste of money. And the more I heard that, the more I was like, okay, I actually think this is a good idea. Because if the majority of people are afraid of it, then I kind of, most people don't have their financial stuff figured out anyway. I might as well take the road less traveled. And that served me really well. And I could give the same story for single family homes as a rental class. Single family home rentals, like that wasn't even an asset class, until after the financial crisis. So no one tracked SFR. That wasn't even a thing. And now it's one of the most, followed and invested in asset classes. And so I liked being on the cutting edge of that before everyone knew about it. And starting a company in that space and not just being an investor, but actually having a business that serviced that space, knowing that no one else could do it in volume. No one else could do it over multiple locations, like that there was just a need in the space that we served and solved for. And we were horrible at it at first, but they couldn't fire us because there was no one else. Or whenever they did fire us, they would bring us back. because there was literally no one else.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. They've actually shown, I think it was last year, 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 single family homes are being bought by Wall Street. I think this year they think it's as high as 1 in 3. And so they're trying to put in laws of getting Wall Street to divest. But it is amazing how things go in and out of favor. And multifamily went being super in favored, and now it's been a bit out of favor because some of the debt stuff, and there's been some challenges there. So have you, I mean, I guess when you're sourcing deals now, I know deals, once you get to be in the deal flow, deals come to you, people bring things to you, probably from your network. Are you also still doing, with your big brand and stuff that you're doing, are you still doing mailers and having teams doing calls and things like this as well?
Well, in any of the deals that we've done directly, we've never actually raised money to purchase properties. So anything that we own direct, I've never syndicated a deal. I've always just wanted to own it 100%. So for our real estate portfolio, everything that I'm not an LP in, so I've got my LP, holdings arm, and we're an LP in a ton of different stuff. I mean, hundreds of deals. And then for anything that we own direct, it's just my wife and I. So are we still buying? Sure, we're still buying. And are we still finding good deals? Yeah, but you got to work a little bit harder. The deals have to be great deals because the spread is way different. It's hard to find a good deal when interest rates are, 6.5, 7.5, 8.5%, whatever it, I think, where they are right now, you're going to be somewhere in that range. Even if you have a friendly at a bank, I'm not seeing much better than even, 6.25. Maybe you can buy down to 6%, right? Very hard. Most people can't. Most people are going to be in the 7 to 8% range.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I guess what sectors, you were talking about trends earlier, what sectors, I mean, you mentioned millennials. Obviously, there's certain parts of real estate that are not institutional yet, such as mobile home parks. You're still doing that. I know you've done some really creative things. You've done stuff in business. You guys did an Orange Theory and some other franchises and things where things kind of showed up. And some of that, from what I remember from your book, if I remember correctly, it was kind of like through organic relationships or through contacts that you had. Can you talk a little bit about some of those deals that kind of showed up in your lap, or that you kind of weren't looking for, but it just kind of happened?
Yeah, at first I had to really work hard to find deals, and I had to put myself out there, and I had to develop some relationships, and it was hard to get into stuff. And over time, you do that enough and you add value to other people, and you don't think about just what you can get, but you figure out what are needs that they have and problems you can solve. And then all of a sudden, you're on a list of people that they want to hook up, and you're on, the early list where you're getting, access to stuff. So just over time, the deal flow has opened up, and even for my own Lifestyle Investor Mastermind community, it started with me providing all the deals, and now we just have so many smart members that, our members are bringing unbelievable deals inside the community. So sometimes they're deals I do, sometimes they're deals from members, but most of the deals that I do come from my network, and it's from the hard work that I put in over the last 20 years, meeting people and trying to be of service, and intentionally wanting to get time and get to know people. And if you do enough favors, if you help enough people, if you add enough value, they are going to show up. And it's not like, let me do this, so here's what I can get. But it's like, if I can just add value to someone, they're going to want to be around me. They're going to want me in their ecosystem. And so before I try to get anything, what can I give? And that has just fostered some incredible relationships and brokered some amazing deals. And some of the deals that we do, we have no business doing some of these deals. I mean, we've got a few groups that we're investing alongside some of the biggest investor names out there at the same terms that they're investing at. We're investing with some of the biggest name family offices and household name entrepreneurs that everyone knows. And our group is literally side by side with them on these deals. And so there's going to be tons of opportunity. And this is part of your question from earlier and the part of your question now. And then, the other part is there's still tons of opportunities. Like, where are there baby boomers that are going to retire at some point? Because there you will find opportunity. And where are there millennials that have a lot of money that was handed down that are going to purchase things, and there is going to be a lot of money. And so you can talk about small business, you can talk about real estate, plenty of people are going to retire, want to sell. You're going to have kids inheriting these things that don't want them, and they're going to sell them. So there's just always going to be ample opportunity.
Well, what you were saying before about it reminds me of, really adding value to people. It reminds me about what Zig Ziglar said, right? You can have anything you want in life. You have help enough other people get what they want. And you have to get that in the right order, and you have to do it. Really, I think the people that do the best in this business of investing or other things is they just want to help and they want to serve. And it has to be genuine, because it's not like, hey, I'm doing this so that I can get whatever, or I did this and now it's a tit for tat. And that's why I have a talk that's coming out where I'm going to be talking about networking, like why people hate networking, because there's this transactional thing of like, we feel awkward and we need something. So it's kind of like we're trying to get something from somebody else rather than just showing up and just being like, hey, how can I help and how can I serve? And I think at a lot of meetups and a lot of conferences and a lot of places that I go or speak at, it's like, I'll meet people like that are just so generous and so helpful. And let me introduce you. And I just look at how some of those people have opened doors for me that, like, I'm so grateful. I literally do just about anything for them. And so for you as well, like, I know you're a likable guy and you do things for people, and it's just doors open. And so I think that even some great LP investors that I know, they spend a lot of time having calls, networking with folks, trying to connect, and just being somebody who connects people and resources, or people to resources or to other people. And I think that's something that really we can't overstate. So I think that's I think one of the reasons why people that are doing deals, they get incredible deal flow, because they're already in a space where they're doing that. They have this collaborative nature. And I think more real estate or investing in general, it's very rare you find somebody who just kind of got there without, collaborating with a lot of other people. And so I guess maybe can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think that's a real key to invisible deals is just, when let's just talk about when you go to a room of people that are peers, or maybe they're even really admire them, or they're billionaires, or whatever type of setting it is. How do you approach someone who has just this amazing wealth or opportunities? I mean, what's going through your mind when you kind of just initially have a conversation with someone like that?
Well, first and foremost, you got to get in the room. So for me, I mean, this is the reason I'm in so many masterminds. So I have 2 masterminds of my own, right? Lifestyle Investor and Tribe of Investors. And then I'm in 14 others. Now, I don't go to everything, okay? But I pick and choose what makes the most sense. My wife would kill me if I went to everything. But, I find a way. Like, for me, it's easy. Like, the ROI can be one event, one relationship, one mindset shift, one thing. It's not like I have to go to every single thing to maximize value. I just need to get at least a thing that can be, that in my mind warrants the price of admission, whether it's a 10K, 20K, 50K, mastermind, whatever the price is. So I'm willing to play that, pay to play to, like, get in the room. And same thing, like, pay for mentorship. I have almost always a mentor that I am paying in my life, in some area of my life. So I think it starts there, right? Got to get in the room. You got to get around those people, because you are going to be the sum or the average of the sum of the people that you spend time with, right? And so that's first and foremost. Secondly, I just don't look at people like I don't get this, like, stage fright around, oh my goodness, this person is, like, a billionaire, or this person's a Hollywood star or whatever. I don't live in that world. They're just a person. And I walk up to them and I treat them like just a person. And 9 times out of 10, that's really refreshing for them. I can't tell you how many, big name entrepreneurs, big name, Hollywood celebs, big name, pro athletes, big name, billionaire entrepreneurs I've hung out with, where I didn't ask for a photo. I didn't, I treated them like anyone else. We had a great conversation. I figure out areas that maybe I can add value. And it's funny, like, sometimes I have a conversation or I make a connection. I don't even remember I do it. I've got friends that are like, I wanted to offer this. Like, I can finally repay the favor from way back when in some situation. I don't even remember the situation, but they do. There's some reciprocity where they're like, I want to hook you up. And so it's just figuring out what people want. And I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be shell shocked by, some big name. I'm going to treat them like anyone else. I'm going to treat them well. I'm going to be a good listener. I'm going to try and figure out how I can help, how I can serve, how I can add value. And sometimes I can't. Sometimes I can't get them to open up, or I can't learn anything. But as much as I can, I do. And as best I can, I try to follow up, and I try to stay in their ecosystem, stay relevant, take them out. One thing I have learned is wealthy people are almost always footing the bill for everything. So early on, I just started picking up tabs anywhere and everywhere I could, even when they insisted. And that may not seem like a big deal, but I've had several conversations now where people are like, I remember when you picked up this, this meal, or that, you did this thing or whatever. And, sometimes I don't even remember it, but they're like, I'm always the one that pays, and you wouldn't let me pay. And so it's like, you can stand out for that reason, even amongst people that can afford whatever the heck they want to afford,
Yeah.
So part of it's like, how do you stand out? But like, how do you add value, and how do you just show up authentically, inside that relationship? And by the way, sometimes people are total jerks and it doesn't work out, and, whatever, but that's not going to discourage me from the next one.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love that approach, because I think, and these are some nuggets. I mean, anybody listening, I mean, if it's just going to people of value and trying to create value. And this actually was really transformative in my life. I was at an investor cruise years ago in the Caribbean. This was in 2019, March of 2019. And some guy at this round table was like, it's like that quote, make yourself valuable to valuable people. And it's a Jim Rohn paraphrase. And I was thinking, well, who do I get value from? Whatever. And I was able to go, connect with a guy who I respected a lot, was big in the multifamily space, and basically just kind of, hey, how could I, how could we help solve this problem in your business, whatever? Because I really thought, well, if I can just help this person, they're creating incredible value. But high value people, you and I, we people sometimes will come to us and say, hey, how can I help, or whatever, but nobody like comes and says, hey, how's it going in this area of your business? And I think I can help. And if somebody does that, it's like, oh, wow, this person is like actually thinking it through, and they're actually looking at ways they could do this. And so we formed a partnership, and we raised $15 million together over the next 18 months. And up to that point, I'd raised $100,000. So to me, that was a huge, but it all started with that headspace of like how you show up. And what I hear from you is all these people that were here, it's not about what I can get, it's about what I can give. And it really makes you stand apart if you're picking up checks, or you're introducing people, or you're giving a resource, or you're doing something, because very few people do that. Very few people do that. And I think that's one of the reasons you've been really successful. Well, Justin, we got a few more minutes here. And again, just really enjoying the conversation here, but what sort of, obviously the market is changing right now. We're seeing, there's conversation, of course, we're in election year. We've got, perception that, rates may come down, they may not. Inflation's still there. Costs are 50% higher for food than they were 4 years ago. What sort of advice, or just, specific advice, but what sort of things would you tell investors to pay attention to, or to be, hey, besides looking at trends and looking at, what are some things as far as education or actions you think every investor should be doing right now?
Well, there's always an opportunity. And so it's figuring out what that opportunity is. So the market, like, we can be in a bear market and there's going to be plenty of opportunity. We can be in a bull market, there's plenty of opportunity. And I think it's just being patient enough to see it, and recognizing that, there's something out there. There's a silver lining, there's an opening, there's a play, there's something. But I also think that before you rush into any investment, it's just best to become very educated, to invest in your education. So yeah, we talked about your peer group and investing in your peer group, but I think you should invest in your education first and foremost. And that could be through a mastermind. It could be through a podcast. It could be through a book. It could be through a mentorship, paid or unpaid. I do think the more you pay, the more you're actually going to like tune in and show up and get value out of it. But before masterminds existed, or before I knew about them, I just was trying to add value and also learn, like, be a student of whatever the thing is. And so, I mean, I have 20 years of my life where I took at least one person out to eat or to get a coffee. I mean, there was a point in time where I didn't have money to even do that. And so I would take people to get a coffee. And I would always pay. And I would ask questions, and I would learn. And I did that. If you did this every week for 20 years, there is this compound effect of education and relationship. And it's interesting. A lot of people say, hey, Justin, your superpower must be investing. And the answer is no. I actually don't think my superpower is investing. I think my superpower is relationship building and networking. Wow. And the reason that I do well investing is because I have access to the deals that no one else has access to, right? I have an unfair advantage because of that type of access, because of that relationship. And by the way, sometimes it's relationship that gives me the education in a space that I would otherwise not know about, so that I know to look for investments in that space, right? So I just think that being willing to invest in yourself, being willing to invest in your peer group, being willing to invest in mentorship and coaching, but only with people that are tried and true, decade plus of experience, like they actually are an expert in the thing that they're teaching, not today's social media influencer that everyone seems to be investing with, where people actually make their decision on whether they're experienced or not based on how many followers they have, not how many years they have in a certain industry or in an investment thesis. So.
Yeah, well, Justin, I just want to say, every time I talk to you, I learn something. I really appreciate the kind of where you come from. I know your heart is to really help and to serve. And I think that's one of the reasons we connect a lot, but just really so grateful for you. I'm excited to check out your new book. I got to pick that up. I hope people reach out to you, hear about your products, your mastermind. You're just adding so much value in different ways. And so thanks for being here today. How can people follow you, get in touch with you, hear about your mastermind and some of your other offerings?
Yeah, probably the best way is just to go to lifestyleinvestor.com. We've got everything there. We've got, free products from free downloadable resources and some really good downloadable stuff, to a blog, to a podcast. You can get my book there. You can get, although more proceeds, if you buy through Amazon, more proceeds go to fight human trafficking that way. But you can get online courses, master classes. We've got a vetting deals course that just went live. We've got a tax strategy masterclass that went live a few months ago. The mastermind info, it's all there. And we're rolling out a Lifestyle Investor Foundations group for young adults, which we're excited about. That launches in September of 2024. So we're thrilled about that. But one of the things I was thinking about for your network, and I would imagine you're going to have some eager people like looking to take next steps. I love telling people on my podcast, hey, what's one step you can take today to move towards passive income and financial freedom? That's kind of like my closing comment. Yeah. But for your community, I thought it'd be kind of cool. We do these strategy sessions. They're $500 strategy sessions where people can meet one-on-one with our team and help figure out how to move from where they are to where they want to go, and what those resources look like. But for your community, I'd love to just offer it for free. So if anyone is interested in kind of taking next steps, if they go to lifestyleinvestor.com/consultation, they can get a session with someone on our team for free.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Justin. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you being here, and look forward to connecting more in the near future.
Me too. Excited for your book to come out.
Thanks, man. Me too. All right, so Justin Donald dropping the nuggets here for you. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. I got really fired up, and I think a couple things that I really took away from this. One is the idea of a trend, getting ahead of a trend. The trend is your friend. If I know that there are going to be a lot of seniors, and you look at the charts over the next 10 years, tons of seniors. So we do senior housing. We're doing stuff in that space. We love, love, love being involved in that, because we know that we're going to have just returns that we're predicting just generally. But then also, if we have this additional upside of just even higher demand, it's going to be in a great place to be. So he talked about looking at millennials, kind of looking at how they're traveling, what they're spending on, what they're doing, this huge wealth transfer that's in the process of happening, which is huge. And then he talked about the idea of invisible deals. It's not just getting access to deals, but it's being a person who's adding value, and that people just simply, they don't even have to. He basically gets brought into deals, and we do too, that we have no business being a part of these amazing deals for investors, but we're brought in because somebody says, you did this for me in this place, or you provided help in this way, or I can just tell you just want to help. So people that are the most successful, and this is really applicable whether you're an active investor and you're operating or syndicating deals or doing your own small deals yourself, or you're someone who's a passive investor. So I encourage you just to be someone today that says, how really can I add value to others? One way you can add value to others, if you enjoyed this interview, please do share it, like it, share it with someone you think that it would be helpful for them to hear, that they can say, hey, I've really been looking for a way to grow my wealth, and that's really what we're doing. So look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Mailbox Money Show. Thanks. You've been listening to the Mailbox Money Podcast. For more free resources, articles, and videos, go to bronsonequity.com. There you can download your copy of the special report, The Single Best Investment Strategy During and After a Pandemic. None of the information shared here is an offer to buy a specific investment, and this is for educational purposes only. Consult your financial, legal, and tax professionals and use your own common sense before making any investment decisions. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to tune in next time for more Mailbox Money.